So I remember in my get to know me video, I said I was going to tell some stories about life. I guess, I don't know, some stories. And what better way to get to know me than to hear about how I almost died, I think. Things happened and I'm going to tell the story. So get yourself a cup of something hot, cold, whatever your preference is. Sit down. I don't know how long this video is going to be because I might ramble on. It's a habit. You'll get to know, and sorry in advance, but get yourself something hot, get yourself something cold, get yourself what you like. In fact, I probably need to go and get something to drink, and we will be right there. If you hear rattling, it's my bottle. I've got ice. In the winter, I'm drinking something cold, so don't judge me. Anyway, boom. So, some of you who are seasoned life livers, that is to say you're old enough, I make random things up, you will know that when it rains, it pours. So let me tell you the story about my storm. This was around 2012. It was about 2012, and the other day I just realized it was 10 years since this happened, but here we are to tell the story. Moving on. Okay, so at about 2012, it was in January. It was really early in the year, and what had happened was, I think in December, this is so I don't know, for all of you who are superstitious out there, maybe not, but around December, I was so happy, just randomly. I remember I was in church, and when we sort of called the new year in, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited to be alive. This is so amazing. This is just the best day ever. I love my life. I loved, I was so excited, and I was crying and so happy. I don't know, maybe, things to come, I have no idea, but that was what happened. So in January, on a random day, I noticed a small boil. It wasn't even like a boil, it was like a pimple. I noticed a small pimple on my inner thigh, and I didn't really have any issues with it. I just thought, okay, well, it's one of those things that happens. I have a pimple thing, and it's going to clear up. And I didn't pay it any mind for a few days because, as you do, you don't little things that bother you on your body, you don't really, what's the word, pay attention. You don't really make a fuss. Rather, I've recently been breaking out ridiculously, so when you get a breakout, you don't really bother. But anyway, I digress. So I didn't pay it any mind for a couple of days, and the next time I sort of noticed it, it didn't hurt, it was just itching a little. I looked at it, or disclaimer, it's not I'm not in tune with my body or anything. When I say I didn't notice it, I just I saw it, and I just it's gonna clear off, nothing's wrong, it's gonna be fine. Anywho, so the next time it made an issue. Who this? Hold on. Hello. Okay, thank you. Bye. Where did I stop? Okay, I've lost my train of thought. Golly. So, a few days later, I noticed that the spot had spread a little. So it went from about a pimple-sized spot to, maybe the size of a £2 coin. I will show you a £2 coin for those of you who's not in the UK, but anyway, so yeah, it spread, and I was just okay, well, I don't know what's going on. I'm probably just irritated to something. It's going to clear up. I'm going to be fine. There's no issues with this. And then I ummed and ahed about this for a few days, and then I think the next week I started to feel a bit poorly. I started to have the general sick feeling, and I was just I never put two and two together to think that, okay, this is what's causing me to generally feel ill. So when I started to feel ill, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to just get some rest. I'm going to just drink more. Because I'd been overexerting myself, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to just relax and not overexert myself, and just, continue with life as usual. Yeah, I was still doing quite a bit. At that point, I was in the choir, so I was still going to all my choir rehearsals. I was still like leading in church, like I was still doing stuff. And then one day, it was a Wednesday. This was probably a week after I'd noticed this spot. That Wednesday, I was in church. I don't know how to explain this, but I was standing and all of a sudden I felt like a wave of just fever just hit me, and I felt like instantly, no lies, instantly I felt quite sick. I felt quite nauseous. I just felt really sick. And a friend of mine was in church and she had to take me home because I couldn't go home myself. It was that bad. It was that instant. It was so weird and so strange. I went home and I just thought, okay, well, I'm feeling a little bad and I don't know what's going on. So maybe later on in a few days, I'll see how I feel. And in a few days, I'll just go to the GP. Or if it gets really bad, I'll just go to A&E. I didn't follow that rule, you know, like I just sat in bed and I just, you know, thought, okay, I'm not gonna actually go anywhere. Let this fever or this sick feeling pass. And then I started to notice that this thing went from like a £2 coin to like maybe that big in the space of 2 days. And I started to just think like, okay, well, I put 2 and 2 together at this point, obviously. And I was just like, okay, well, something is wrong. And it's obviously because of this, because it's spread. And it's spread like from my inner thigh to like my outer thigh, like the front of my outer thigh. And I was just like, okay, something is off. So let's see how I feel. I'm probably going to just take a few painkillers and this will get better. It didn't get better because I started to get sicker and sicker. And I started to notice that what had become an abscess now started to get black and I couldn't touch it. Like if I touched it a little, it would really hurt. Like the pain was not proportionate to the pressure you'd put on it. So I was just like, okay, something is wrong and it's getting worse and I don't know what to do. So I think this was late on a Friday that I'd noticed this and said, okay, right, I need to like see a doctor or something. This is not what's up. So the Friday, I left it for the Friday because the GPs were closed. I didn't want to go to A&E because I didn't want to sit around for like 4 or 5 hours. So the next day I went to a walk-in GP center. I was feeling really sick, like I was feeling really bad, and I sat there in the waiting room and the lady was like,
oh, the GP will see you soon, you know, don't worry, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about, you know, the GP will see you soon, and, you know, what do you say is wrong with you again?
I'm like, I explained myself maybe like 2-3 times. I waited a good maybe hour, and when he called me in, I kid you not, my guy did not even look at my leg. He did not look at anything. He just said,
oh, you know, you're just showing signs of an infection. What I'm going to do is I'm going to prescribe you some antibiotics, and when I prescribe some antibiotics, you know, you should feel better. I'll give you a 3-day course, and they're gonna be a bit strong, you know, so...
He gave me the spiel on, you know, what not to do when I'm on antibiotics and all that. I just thought, okay, well, you know, I guess you know what you're talking about. So I'm going to just take this 3-course antibiotics and, you know, move on with my life. But it rang its odd that he didn't even look at my leg. In fact, I was bantering about it and I texted someone and just said, you know what, like I wasn't even in the mood to put my trousers down anyway. So good thing he didn't check. Like I was just randomly just bantering, and I went home. I took my antibiotics religiously because, you know, I wanted to feel better. I wanted to get back to my day's business. I wanted to just like, you know, just put this whole thing behind me. That was how I felt. Then, even though I was still on my antibiotic, I wasn't feeling any better. You know, on a good day, I would hardly take medication. I really didn't like taking medication. So even the painkillers I was taking, I was just like, oh God, what are you doing? Like, you're taking meds, like it's not that deep. But I was in so much pain, and you know, 2 paracetamols a day did not even sort it out. It was bad. I remember like standing in front of a mirror and like I'd seen it had spread and looking at it and like, this is really bad, Victoria. What is going on? And I started to quickly deteriorate. So I couldn't go down the stairs. I'd like quarantined myself into the room and did everything in the room, and then had like my mom bring food up for me or my siblings. Like I just stayed there and just, I don't know, I was in bed the whole time and getting worse, definitely getting worse. So whilst I was trying to figure out what was going on with me, this thing was getting worse. I was definitely deteriorating. I started to get like regular temperatures, I started to get regular fevers, and I started to feel more pain. My mom would kind of say to me like, are you sure you're okay? Is everything okay? And I'd be like, yeah, you know, I just don't feel great, but I should be fine. You know, the doctor's giving me antibiotics, I should be okay. He gave me the antibiotics on the Saturday. Sunday, I felt horrible. Monday, it was just like, okay, something, I need to do more because this is getting worse. I'm not feeling any better. And then my friend realized that something was wrong, because even though she would call me on the phone, I'd be like, oh God, listen, I'm fine, I just feel weird. And she would say to me like, you know, you don't sound yourself, you need to do something is really wrong, you don't sound yourself. And I'm just like, listen, I'm good. So that Monday, she just turned up at my house and she saw me and said, okay, you need to go to the GP right now because something is really wrong and you're not yourself, and I know you're trying to play it off and be strong and be fine, but something is really off. I reluctantly just said, okay, no problem, let's walk to the GP. My GP is about, I don't know what, a 7-minute walk away from my house. So I managed, I kid you not, it took us, because she walked with me, it took us about 30 minutes to walk from my house to the GP because I was slow and struggling and I was just not myself. You know, she would hold my hand and she would be like, okay, well, let's go at your pace. My pace happened to be 30 minutes. We got to the GP and because I said, listen, I need to see a GP now because I'm very unwell and something is really wrong and I don't know what's going on and I really need to see a GP because you're not going to send me back home because I'm not going to go anywhere because something's off. You know, she then said, okay, well, sit down, you know, we'll get the doctor to see you. I sat down. I felt so sick. I couldn't sit up. It took so much. It took all the strength in me not to lay on the floor at that point because I was so bad. Like, I felt so bad. And my friend was so kind. She was so sweet. And she was like, you know, trying to help me feel comfortable. Then the GP called me in. I went to the GP. I said to him, listen, I don't know what's going on. I've been feeling this way for quite some time now. It started with this spot that's now become an abscess and it's black now, and I feel really like I'm in pain when I touch it. Like, I gave him everything. I gave him all the details. So he looked at it and just said, oh, you've got quite a bad infection. You see, they gave you some antibiotics. I'm going to give you stronger ones. So I'm going to give you a 5-day course. And with this antibiotics, they're much stronger. It should clear up your infection. Come back after this course if you feel any worse, and then we'll know what to do next. I said, okay. It's 2 doctors now. 2 doctors have said the same thing. So either I'm going crazy or something is really, really wrong. But at the end of the day, we're gonna eventually get down to the bottom of this because I started to feel really sick. I don't feel myself. That's what I kept saying, like, I don't feel myself. Anyway, so it's mad, right? Like, between the time I got to the GP and the time he saw me, I felt sicker. It was happening at a huge, like a fast pace. So I managed to I said thank you, left his door. As soon as I got to the waiting room, I literally sat down on the floor. Anyone that knows me knows that's unheard of. I sat down on the floor and I said, I cannot, you see that walk home is not gonna happen. I'm not gonna walk home. You need to call me a cab because I can't do this. I can't do it. So she called a cab and she was so concerned. She was, oh Lord. She was so concerned. She called a cab and then we went. I got home. I'm telling you right, that stairs. You see the stairs to go home. I looked at it. It felt like the stairs that Jacob saw when he encountered the angel, like the stairs to heaven, stairway to heaven. I said, no, bro, I can't, like these stairs, I can't do it. I just couldn't. And she just said, you've just got to try because you need to lay down, you need to rest. I literally crawled up the stairs. I crawled up the stairs and it felt longer and longer. I crawled up the stairs. I got to the top of the stairs and I just laid there for quite some time and then managed to get in bed. So that was when I kind of just figured, like, I'm in danger. Something is wrong. I need to just pay more attention. Listen, right? This is one of those things that happens where you're like, oh, it can never happen to me. These are the things that happen to other people. So like in the midst of it, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like, you know, this is a life or death situation. It doesn't feel that way. It just felt normal. Like it just felt like I just felt really sick and that's it. Anywho, so my friend was with me for quite some time. She left really late in the night. I just, you know, and she just said to me, get some sleep, get some rest, take your antibiotics. It may clear your infection. You'll be fine. You'll feel fine. Just, you know, do what you have to do. Then the Tuesday morning, it was maybe around 3-4 a.m. I literally woke up gasping. Like I literally, that's how I woke up at that time of the night. Like I woke up and I was short of breath and I was just like, okay, something's wrong, but let me just, you know, let me call. I don't want to disturb the ambulance service. I said, let me just call 111 because that way they'll tell me what to do. They'll tell me if I need to call an ambulance. They'll give me more information. At least I'll speak to a medical professional who can tell me what's up. So I pick up the phone and I call 111 and I'm like, well, hello, I'm really sorry to bother you, but I've just woken up and I'm short of breath. And this was how I was talking, like, and I'm like short of breath. And you know, it's been a while now, but I've noticed like a spot that has turned into an abscess. And you know, when I touch it, it's spreading. It feels like it's spreading because it's gotten bigger now. And when I touch it, it really hurts and it's black. And I don't really want to bother you, but you know, what do you think I should do? And the woman was like,
okay, what do you mean what should you do? Like, you sound awful. Like,
I was like, well, yeah, you know, I'm a little short of breath. And she was just like, okay, well, she took my, literally, honestly, like if you'd put a SAT probe on me, my saturation level would have gone from like maybe 90 to like 85, 60. Like it was deteriorating. Like I was getting more and more short of breath. And she was like, okay, well, she took all my details.
I said to me, well, you said you have an abscess that has been spreading. I was like, yes, you know, and it's black.
I was like, yes. And she said,
yeah, I'm sending you an ambulance.
And I was like, no, I don't really want to bother you. You know, I just said, I'm sending you an ambulance, Victoria. So expect that. Now with the ambulatory service, like they have a strict timeline. Like only if you're like really, really, really poorly, they come out quick. But if it's like a little incident, like when I cut the tip of my finger off, another story for another day. They come out after like 2 hours-ish and stuff. But for this, I literally saw them outside my house 10 minutes later. My mom let them in and they came up and they said to me, and I said, oh, I'm so sorry guys. Like, I'm sure it's not a big deal, but you know, it's the 111 service that called you. But and then I explained everything and they said, you on stretcher now. I'm like, oh gosh, it's not that big. Like, they said, yeah, we know, yeah, it's okay, don't worry. They did all their vital checks. They did everything. Indeed, put a SAT probe on me and my saturation level was low. And they said, right, okay, you are going into A&E because we're not taking any chances with you. We know, you know, you say it's not a big deal, it's fine, let's go. And then my mom was like, okay, let me come with you. And I'm like, no, it's fine, I'll be back tomorrow. The lies I told. Like I just thought, you know, it's not a big deal, like they'll figure it out and I'll be back tomorrow. Then we got to the hospital, and when we got to the hospital, within 20 minutes they put a drip on me. They were doing a lot of things, and I was just like, okay. And they gave me painkillers, and for the first time in maybe a week or so, I didn't feel so much pain, but it was not long-lived because like the pain came back like 10 times worse. And they left me in A&E. I was in A&E so I was there like really early in the morning on the Tuesday. I was there the whole day, and the whole time I was there, I was getting worse. And all they kept doing was giving me fluids and, you know, giving me painkillers. And I didn't see a doctor until maybe in the afternoon. And the doctor said, let's just go and do an ultrasound of this abscess and see how it goes and see what we're dealing with. So they took me to, eventually, because it took a while, they took me to have an ultrasound. And, you know, the sonographer, honestly, would put a probe on me, and I'd be like, and he's like, really, is it that painful? I'm like, yes. He would touch me, and I'm like, oh. It was so painful. And then he couldn't really do what he wanted to do because I was in so much pain. And they sent me back to A&E. I wasn't even on a ward or anything. I was still just like on an A&E bed. And like a lot of things are a blur, quite frankly, because they had to give me stronger painkillers for me to feel better. And with that, like with the mixture of the painkillers and the pain and everything, I was groggy. And this was what they told me later on when they had admitted me. I was going into sepsis. My kidneys were failing, my organs were shutting down slowly, and you know, they then said, oh no, you know, doctors always say this, you know, if you had come an hour later, it would have been a different story. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Anywho's, so that evening, that Tuesday night, I'd been in A&E for more than half a day. So the next morning would have made it a day rather. So I had a friend come through, and this was another friend, and looked at me, and I was so incoherent. I couldn't understand what was being said to me. I was just in so much pain. I was like drifting in and out of sleep. And you know, at that point, I think they gave me so much medication like at that point, but I just remember that I was in so much pain, and the doctors hadn't done anything at this point. They just kept me there because they were investigating. Like, I don't understand. Like, I was getting worse, and you left me there. Again, another light bulb in a doctor's head went off again that night, and they said,
okay, well, you know, I think what we need to do is take you first thing in the morning to, you know, get your abscess drained. And when we get the abscess drained, at least it'll make you feel better. It'll give you some relief. You wouldn't feel as much pain as you are in now, and we'll know what's going on, and then we can then just treat the infection.
First thing, Wednesday morning, I was taken into theater. And before then, my mom called me. My mom kept calling me the whole time and saying, oh no, how are you feeling? I'm like, I'm okay, because I didn't want to stress her. Like, I was like, I'm okay. You know, they said they'll just drain the abscess tomorrow, so I should be fine. It's not going to be a big deal. It's not going to be an issue. So on Tuesday, they took me in, and what I heard was that as soon as they like made an incision on the abscess, the whole theater stunk. Like, there was a smell that came, and that was when they knew what they were dealing with. They had to call in, as an emergency, all the specialists, all the consultants. They had to call them into the theater because they hadn't seen anything like that before. And they then said, this is necrotizing fasciitis. This is bad. This is bad. And they then apparently started to race against time, because what was happening was, as they were debriding and as they were removing all the dead flesh, it was spreading because it had been left so long. It had gone through my muscle. Thank God, like, it didn't get to my bone, but it had gone through layers of muscle, and it was spreading. So they then took 6 hours to try and treat. And whilst they were doing their thing, and whilst I was on the operating table, someone had to then send a message and say to someone, you need to call this person's next of kin, because, you know, this is worse than we thought. So they called my mom. My mom, the ever dramatic African mother, So they called her. This is what she said to me. They called her and they said to her, right, okay, something is really wrong. Victoria's in danger and she's in the theater now, and this is what's happened. You need to come ASAP, because you need to either come and be here for her when she wakes up, or if she wakes up, or you need to make a decision about what we need to do next. My mother dropped everything, as in, and was there in a flash. And she was just like, she said to me, she was in such a panic. She was waiting, and you know, they kept giving her information. They kept coming out to give her information. She then said like a surgeon came out to her and like sat her down. You know, one of those like doctor talks with doctor sad eyes. They sat her down and said, well,
you know, this is really bad, so we may have to amputate.
I'm in trouble.
And she said, do what you have to do to save her life. If it is amputate. Amputate whose leg? Why? How? What? Where? Huh? Like, she's like, oh yeah, no, just amputate. I said, when she told me that, I was like, nah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I actually couldn't imagine it. So she was, you know, really, really, really freaking out. But thank God, like, I came through it. They did what they could do, as much as they could do at that point, because I had been under general anesthesia unplanned for quite a while. So they you know, they had done their best and then just said, okay, we need to keep you under observation. I remember waking up to my mom. Like, my mom was there. They put me in HDU. Now, for those of you fortunate enough not to know what HDU is, it's high dependency unit, not quite ICU, but not quite general ward. They put me in HDU, and when I came to it, my mom was there, and I was surrounded by doctors and nurses. There were a lot of them, and one of them, like, very sympathetically held my hand and said,
you've had necrotizing fasciitis,
and you know, we've tried our best to save your life, but you have a really big scar. You have a really, really big scar. And I remember like just saying, I was just happy-go-lucky, well, okay, at least I'm alive. And he was shocked, like, okay. I was like, well, at least I'm alive. And I went back to sleep. Like, I went back to sleep. Only God knows at that point what drama I was about to experience for the whole, like, I don't know, that whole year, because that was the beginning of it, because it was a journey and a half. When I came back to it, like, I think the anesthesia had worn off, the pain kicked in. I was on oral morphine. I was on the pump morphine. I was also prescribed the injectable morphine, where, you know, they said if this person is in pain, just, you know, pump them up with meds. None of it really worked, by the way. None of it really worked, because the pain was ridiculous. It was mad. So my mom, besides herself, she was there. She's like, are you okay? What's going on? What are you? I just know I couldn't move. Like, I was in bed, like, just laid down there, face up, hands to my side. I couldn't move. And the body is such a weird thing, and it's marvelous. Because of that one thing, my whole body swole up. My whole body was just like 2 times bigger than it was. It was bad, but this leg was super swollen. My mother looked at me and just thought, oh gosh, like I looked really bad. If you wanted to move me, or if I wanted to move, if like the nurse would, you know, the nurse would like try to do personal cares, and if she wanted to move me, I'd be like, hold up, wait. I would pump my morphine. I would say I need morphine. Like, I would take all the meds I can take, maybe like 15 minutes before she can like turn me a little bit to sort out my personal cares. It was that bad. And my mother would see that and she'd be so upset. And this hospital I was at was not a specialist hospital, so it was not a level 3 hospital. The level of care I received was not excellent. I think they were trying, like, trust me, I would get nurses, you know, like when they do the rotation, nurses would come and they would see my leg and they'd be like, literally, they would be like, and I'm looking at them like, you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. Why are you gasping? Like, so that was just like how not very, in tune with this kind of issues they were. Does that even make sense? I hope it does. Yeah. So I was in that hospital and they were trying to find a bed for me in another hospital that was specialist and they could deal with me, they could treat me well, because in this hospital, because they didn't know what they were doing that much, I really struggled because I had multiple surgeries. After that first one, I had multiple surgeries, and because it was such an open wound, it was seeping fluids, and it would make my bed wet and my back was peeling. It was horrible. And like the smell, like I couldn't stand the smell because obviously it was like a huge open wound they couldn't really manage. And I always said to like anyone that was there, I'm like, I smell like an abattoir, like this is so bad. Like it was really bad. And I would look at people around who were walking around dry and smelling nice, and I'd be like, oh gosh, this is so bad. Like it was really bad. Then they managed to find me a bed at a specialist hospital, and then they transferred me. This whole time I never looked down. Like even when they were doing like dressing changes, I could feel like what was there was like flapping around. It was weird. I just didn't look down. I couldn't look down because I felt like I was already going through so much, and I couldn't look down because if I did, I would be so demoralized. I know how I felt, and I just thought, okay, this is the one thing I can do for myself, just don't look down. So when they transferred me that same night, the hospital, I got all the specialists that were expecting me. They came to my room, they did what they did, they bandaged it properly. Literally in 20 minutes they wrapped the wound up properly. And in fact, one of the first things the surgeon said to me is, don't look down, Victoria, just don't look down, because it was that bad. And they wrapped it up, they put it properly, they connected me to a vac pump. The vac pump saved my life, like my mental life. Like they connected me to a vac pump, and what a vac pump did was it would suck out all the extra fluid instead of it sort of like seeping into my bed. That day, that first night I was in the new hospital, I slept like a baby because I was not uncomfortable. They just knew how to manage it better. So when they put me on the vac pump, they were able to like contain it. That was when I could look down, and when I looked down, I was shocked at what I saw. I will put the picture. I was shocked by what I saw, and it was black. And so the black thing is the vac pump apparatus. So it's not my skin. It wasn't black. My skin was flesh pink. I looked down and I was like, oh, like it was what I saw was just, I was like, oh gosh. And then they said to me, okay, no, don't worry, that black is not your skin, it's just the vac pump. I was like, okay, but it was huge, and I was just thinking, wow, this is bad. This is really bad. And yeah, so they sent me to a ward. My experience on a ward, quite frankly, I don't even know how to explain it. It was terrible. It was terrible. I have many stories about nurses from both ends. I'll get to it, but like this one, I used to dread weekends, because weekends, I think at that hospital at that time, they used to have like a lot of like agency nurses who just did not care. They were not familiar with your case. They used to refuse sort of looking after me because it was too much work. I used to be in so much pain and they would ignore me, and it was a really horrible experience. I was in the hospital for such a long time. And then whenever Friday comes, I would get really depressed. Not really depressed, like I would get really like down, like it's almost the weekend, this is gonna be a nightmare. Because of my experience with the nurses, my mom used to come and, you know, like do my personal care. She would come and she would even like clean me up and stuff, you know, because I used to try and hide the extent of the wound to my mom. The day my mother saw it, she broke down and wept, and it was so, like, I felt so bad seeing her like that. And I would say to her, like, mommy, like, I'm the one in this situation. If you're breaking down and crying, what do you expect me to do? Why are you crying? Like, I would try to be so strong, but then when she would leave, I would break down and I would be so upset and I would cry. I never cried in front of anybody. I never did, because I would just like wait for them to leave. I remember one morning I was in so much pain. This is how bad it was. I was in so much pain that when the nurse was doing my baseline ups at the beginning of the shift, my BP was something stupid. It was something stupid, like, I don't know, 200 over something, because I was in the throes of so much pain. And then she was like, oh, this can't be right. This machine cannot be right. Let me get another machine and do it. She did it. It was the same thing. And I said to her, I am in a lot of pain right now. I'm in a lot of pain. Like, this feels correct because I'm in a lot of pain. And she was like, okay, well, I'll see what I can get the doctor to do. Did she come back a big fat? No, she didn't. Like, I was just suffering and struggling. So that in the middle of that, my mom came through, and really early. And I said, Mommy, I tried to hold and hide my pain. I said, Mommy, no, you need to go home and go back and sleep, because I'm just gonna go to sleep now, Mommy. Just don't. And because I could see she was really tired, she hadn't been sleeping. I said, Mommy, just go home and sleep, and just relax. I'm fine. Look at me, I'm fine. But just go home. And she would go home, and then she left. Sorry. And then when she left, I was broken. I was in pain and crying. I had to hide my tears from her because I know what it would have done. And I did this with all my family, my brother, my sisters, everyone that came to visit me. I would be like, oh, I'm good, I'm fine, it's fine. But then when they left, it was just bad. I know someone said to me, you don't have to be strong for anybody, but I knew what I was doing. Like, I couldn't imagine like my family just being so upset because of me in that situation. Like, I didn't like it felt like pity, and like I didn't like it till today. I never like pity. I don't want it. I unsubscribe from that. So yeah, I had quite a number of surgeries. I think I stopped counting at 9, but I had quite a number of surgeries. And the day I was discharged, I was so happy when they said to me, right after this surgery, after this last skin graft surgery, you get to go home, you'll be fine, but you need to come to hospital often though. I'm like, yes, it's hospital at home, hospital from home, whatever, anything that as far as it has home in it, I'm signing up, I'm good, let's go, let's be like, I was so excited when they had to discharge me. So they took skin graft from my left thigh and put it on my right thigh. Like, after they did so many things, honestly, they did so many things before the skin graft, and then the skin graft was the final piece of the puzzle, and they did that. Tell me why this leg started to hurt more than this. The healing process for this was horrible. It's not even pain. It was itching. The itching, the healing process, it itched for months. And because it's like an open wound, I couldn't, you can't itch it. The itching was horrible. And because of the amount of trauma I went through on this thigh, I can't feel anything. Like if I pinch this leg or thigh or whatever, I can't really feel anything. So maybe the healing process was the same as this, but I just couldn't feel it. I guess, silver lining and all. Yeah. So after my skin graft, I'll look for a picture, I think, and put it somewhere, because hopefully I can find it. I had to go to the hospital 4 times a week, but the hospital arranged transport and everything, which was a lifesaver, because it was so many hospital visits. And I had to have I had so many more surgeries, reconstructive. I had, it was a journey and a half. And I'm so thankful, because like around that time, randomly, I started to like read stories of people going through or surviving necrotizing fasciitis, and all the stories I read, their results were worse than mine, because they either had an amputation or they either had like proper disfigurement. I do have a huge scar on my thigh, but then it's not something that anyone would like really notice when they first see me or anything. And I have a friend like who then said to me, oh, my dad went through this and he's had issues since then, because he's had like kidney problems since then. And I'm so thankful, I'm so grateful. Like, I turned out healthier. Dude, I turn out healthier. Let's see. No, I didn't like have any major issues that would affect my quality of life. I am so grateful and so thankful, and I will shout it from the rooftops about how God saved my life. And you know, the doctors were amazing, you know, on the later part of it. The nurses, I met one out of my whole experience. Okay, not one, two. I met two nurses who actually were there to help, I felt, because they were amazing. Out of the sea of really horrible nurses, there were only two nurses I could say were excellent. There was a third one who was a specialist nurse, so he wasn't there the whole time, he wasn't there all the time, but he was an amazing person as well, and I met hundreds in the process. The rest of them were what? Failures. It's a tale of what not to do. So yeah, that's it. I just, you know, I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm so glad I can tell this with the humor I do, because it was really traumatic, and I'm just glad to be on the other end. I'm glad to be doing this. I'm glad to be living life normally, and even though now and then it does affect me because my leg hurts sometimes, I'm still happy to be alive. It could have been so much worse, and I'm just grateful. So I'm also grateful that you were able to stick with me, watch this, and hear my story. Let me know what you think, and don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel. So, au revoir. Bye.